Welcome back to the Michael Maher Show. Today is Tuesday, August 9th, 2022. This episode 85. And I'm joined by Keith Van Gate, a.k.a. Kane Van Gate, a.k.a. KVG, world's best beer league goalie, five-time BHL champion, and content creator with over 50K subscribers on YouTube. It's a pleasure having you on.
Yeah, thanks for having me, man. I know we've been back and forth a bit. You've been busy, I've been busy, so I'm glad we're finally doing it. But yeah, excited.
Yeah. And if you don't mind, just can you give a brief overview of your hockey career and how you got started in the BHL?
Yeah. So my real name is Keith Van Gales. Anyone listening, if you've heard of me, you've heard of Kane Van Gate, not Keith Van Gales. I never played professional hockey or anything like that, but I coach goalies for a living. And then so my hockey career, I grew up playing in St. Louis, Missouri. Played for the St. Louis Amateur Blues AAA program for 4 years. Played a little bit of junior hockey, was a bit of a suitcase, and then walked on at Bowling Green State University. Got to play with the likes of Jordan Siglet and Kevin Bieksa, who's a tough guy. Kind of roughed me up once, and I deserved it. But anyways, and then after I was there for 3 semesters, had some injuries and things like that, didn't work out, and then transferred to University of Missouri, finished from there. And then that's when I got the coaching bug. That's when I knew when my college career came to an end. Obviously I knew playing professionally was obviously not a reality. So I kind of changed my focus to coaching goaltenders. And that was a part-time job I had for about 10 years. And then now it's a full-time gig, that with, all the social media stuff, and actually do a little bit of commercial acting as well. So yeah, hockey pays the bills, which is pretty awesome. So no complaints.
So throughout your hockey career, did you always want to become a coach, towards the tail end once you finally retired, or is that something that kind of happened naturally?
It's a good question. Kind of both. It kind of happened naturally. So I was an undergrad at University of Missouri, and a local youth hockey organization, Kirkwood Youth Hockey here in St. Louis, reached out to me and asked if I could be, because they had a main goalie coach, Bruce Racine, this guy who played in the NHL, and he's my boss. He owns and runs the Racing Goalie Academy. So they had him, but they needed someone to kind of fill in on a regular basis since he was really busy. I obviously wasn't. So it kind of fell into my lap that way. I coached in high school quite a bit, and even in college a little bit. Back when I was at Bowling Green, there's 2 kids I did some lessons with. So I always had the coaching bug, but I never thought that it could be a full-time job. And then, once I kind of saw that, hey, I could make a living doing this, and I started taking it a lot more seriously. And yeah, so to answer your question, it definitely happened organically. It kind of fell in my lap when they gave me that offer out of the clear blue. And if that offer never happened, it's probably safe to say I wouldn't be coaching, how I am now, but maybe I would have. I always had the bug a little bit, but it also kind of fell right in my lap too.
So do you see a ceiling for your coaching career? Do you kind of want to stay in the BHL or work with the youth, or, build your way up to the majors or to the, NHL?
I honestly have no desire to be a professional or NHL goalie coach. There's so many good coaches out there, and I think I really found my niche here working with youth goalies, but also I get to coach adults, and then some of our youth goalies have gotten drafted, turned pro. So they come back, and it's a little more training than it is teaching, right? But in fact, I even learned from them. But yeah, I don't really have a desire to kind of work my way up. I mean, like I said, there's a ton of good coaches out there. You got to it's kind of like, going through, you got to kind of earn it, I guess, kind of work your way up through the minor league sort of. And yeah, it's not exactly something I'd be interested in. I had an opportunity to work with some tier 1 and tier 2 junior teams, and the money was, I just had to say no. It just wasn't worth it for me. And, I want to be here with my family and raise a family here in St. Louis. And I don't want to be living on a bus making, just barely enough to survive. So I tip my cap to those guys who went through that grind and made it. I think that's awesome. I just know I'm very passionate about this, but that's just, it's just not really interesting. I'm not really interested in that, I guess.
Yeah. And I'd love to talk a little bit about the movie that you starred in, Hockey Journey, where you traveled around the country, showcasing your passion for the sport. Can you tell us a little bit about how that movie came about and some stories from filming?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for bringing that up.
Of
If
course.
anyone wants to see the trailer or download it, you can go to hockeyjourney.com for
I'll put
more
it in the
information.
description. Yeah, I'll put it in the description.
Awesome. Thank you, Michael.
Of course, man.
So it's funny. I have a buddy who I've been good friends with since seventh grade who shoots and edits most of my videos, pretty much all of them. And he was adamant about doing this movie, and I was not. I was like, let's just stick with YouTube, let's grow that. So I was very skeptical. I also knew it was going to be an insane amount of work and time and money and all that. But he talked me into it, and I'm glad he did. It was the hardest thing I've ever done in my life, but and the most stressful too. But it was really rewarding, and to just say like, "Hey, we did it." We raised $15,000 through Kickstarter, which is awesome. And without that money, we wouldn't have even been able to pull it off. But even though it's a documentary, 15,000, we spent a lot more than that. So financially, it was very stressful. So that's kind of how. So Dave was really adamant about it. He talked me into it. We traveled to Vancouver, and the wheels started turning, and then that kind of gave us the motivation to do it. And ideally, we want it to be a series. So Hockey Journey, we could do Vancouver, Toronto, Helsinki, Detroit, Florida, whatever, and just kind of get some legs and keep going. And we had some meetings set up in some different cities with some really awesome potential places to shoot, but with COVID, everything got shut down. So that's still kind of a dream of mine to make that a series and keep that going, or to just make any hockey movies in general with a real budget, instead of having to do crowdfunding. But yeah, so that was really kind of Dave talking me into it. And, every time we hit a hurdle, I was like, I told you, so, but anyways, once we got it done, it was huge relief to get that done. Just knowing, it took us 2 years of just work. Cause there's just him and I, where usually, even if it's a documentary, you've got a team of people working on it, so it was pretty insane. But like I said, I'm glad we pulled it off, and really proud.
Without giving away like any spoilers to the documentary, what would you say were like some of your favorite parts of the doc?
Some of my favorite parts, I think were Brandon Barber, Pavel Barber. Brandon Barber's his real name. Pavel Barber, the stick handling specialist, is a buddy of mine, and so he was, I guess you could say, the co-star in it with me, and so he was also a producer on this with us. And I guess him and I going to taking the ferry to Victoria Island, and then just seeing the Ultimate Hockey Fan Cave, and actually just doing all that exploring, and then going to a couple events and just meeting hundreds and hundreds of passionate hockey people who were really geeking out about him. I don't know. I think that was probably my highlight, was just kind of bumming around with him. And then I guess the Ultimate Hockey Fan Cave might be my favorite part, even though a lot of people have already seen that all over social media and on different shows on Netflix and things, because it's such a cool venue. That was awesome. And then just the whole having an idea and being able to bring it to life, as risky and as scary and stressful as it was, super rewarding when you're finally done.
So what were some hurdles that you had to overcome throughout filming the documentary that you kind of didn't see coming when you started?
That's a good question. There's a million. I'll start with some big ones. We had 2 computers crash on us. At one point, we were having to edit on a MacBook Pro, and then the computer crashed, and we lost about 65, almost 70 hours of editing. Damn. So, there are some nightmares going on where, if we had a real budget, some things that could have easily been avoided. If I do this again, which I hope to, I would definitely want to not use my own money or crowdfunding, and actually get it financed correctly and do it the right way. Mm-hmm. But boy, did we learn a lot. Just like sports, it's fun to win. Everybody wants to win, but you don't learn any life lessons from that. It's when you lose some heartbreakers, when you really kind of figure out who you really are. So from all those nightmare mistakes, we learned a ton. So if there's a next go around, we know what mistakes not to make.
Yeah. And we learned, or you talked a little bit about your hockey journey at the start of the episode, but how did you get started with social media and your YouTube channel and, building your character? And also if you could give a quick overview of your character.
Yeah. So for anyone listening who has no idea, so Kane Van Gate, you'd say it's an alter ego where, I just act like this. Well, I am a beer league goalie and goalie coach, so it's not too much acting, but, I always thought that there are a lot of hockey players out there that are a little delusional about their own abilities, and a lot of them happen to be goalies, it seems. And I remember, I've met goalies who are in their 30s who legitimately deadpanned have said, I'm pretty athletic. I feel like if I do this for a couple of years, I might be able to try out for this and this. And I'm kind of like, buddy, like that's impossible. Like you can't, like, do you realize how disrespectful that is to all the guys who do play at that level? And so it kind of got the wheels turning. And I'm not going to name names, but there's just a few guys I've come in contact with where I'm like, oh boy, you're just out of your mind, delusional. So I was like, let's make fun of these guys in like a subtle way, like not make fun of them directly, but just kind of that Uncle Rico kind of guy who just thinks he has it and he never really did kind of thing.
Yeah.
And so like I wrote a script actually for an outskater, and we were trying to find convince one of our buddies to like act in it, and no one really wanted to do it. I ended up getting like a really nice set of like, I think Reebok custom gear. Like I looked like a professional goaltender. And I think it was just kind of the joke wrote itself. And then my buddy Dave was like, dude, you should just do it. And I had no experience being in front of a camera. I had no interest. And I just did it. We made BHL 36, which was our first video. It kind of gives you the day in the life of a legendary beer league goalie. And it didn't get a lot of views right away, but I want to say like 6 to 12 months later, it really started circulating. I still to this day don't know how, if somebody tweeted it or shared it or what, but all of a sudden it was just getting views like way, way, way after we made it. And so from there it's like, all right, let's just create some social channels and kind of see what happens here. Because our original plan was to just, our YouTube channel is called Hockey Shorties, and we're just going to come up with a bunch of different short ideas. And that was our first or second one. And then after it kind of got some legs, we just kind of developed it into like an alter ego character and just made it a series and continued with the videos. And we've been doing this for almost 9 years now, which is insane. But obviously we enjoy it, and that's why we still do it.
Is it ever difficult for you to switch from Keith to Kane? Like if you're doing a meet and greet, or if you're at a practice, or, a bunch of fans come up to you that are maybe a little bit younger that expect to see Kane. Is it hard for you to balance them?
It's a good question. It's not, like, it's really not. I've gotten used to anytime I'm at a rink and there's kids who are, 12 or younger, if they come up to me with a grin on their face, or, whatever, they like say a random line from a video that I don't even remember. I've gotten used to being like, okay, they obviously know who I am, but they know who the YouTube channel is. And so, I'll break right into it. It's not like Daniel Day-Lewis playing Abraham Lincoln or anything, you know what I mean? It's not like it's much acting, although I'd like to think it's a little bit of acting, but at the end of the day, I am a very hockey passionate goalie guy and coach, and do play beer league. So there's a lot of crossover there, but I'm not delusional in real life. I usually get to the rink about 20 minutes before the game. If we lose, I'll probably be mad for about 30 seconds and then get over it. So it's a very exaggerated version of myself, and then like a few other people I've met. So going back and forth is, I don't know. I've been doing it so long. I'm just so used to it. I even did a podcast once, the Hockey Think Tank, where they had me, I was just doing a normal interview like I am with you right now. And then they had me like break into character, and really it's just being a little cocky and a little delusional. And that's really about it. But,
and you're heavily involved with the BHL and BHL PA. What are some goals that you have to expand the league?
We wanted to make BHL universal. So like, let's say you're playing beer league and it's called the WRHL, whatever it's called. We want you to be like, oh, my BHL league's called the WMJB. We want to make it more universal. And that actually kind of happened organically. Like we didn't have necessarily a plan to do that. We were just, kind of in videos being like, how's your BHL league? And kind of, that was the effort, I guess. And it kind of worked. And then we started BHLPA. Obviously it's just a joke, and it's a spoof or a parody of the NHLPA, which they okayed it, by the way, thankfully, because they could have easily shut us down if they wanted to. But really all it is it's just apparel. So we just have BHLPA.com, and we just have beer league apparel, hats, hoodies and t-shirts and that sort of thing. Ideally I would like to grow that and to make it more profitable. It's just tough. There's so much stuff going on with Dave and I, with our personal lives and work lives, that BHLPA probably hasn't gotten the attention I would like to give it. So this season, I'd like to put forth more effort and just do a better job marketing it and just spreading the word and that sort of thing.
So if someone was to give you like $5 million, what would you spend it on to grow the league?
That's an awesome question. I think I would take that money and just use it to create cooler content for the YouTube channel. Like take a helicopter up to the top of a mountain where there's a frozen pond and, stuff like that. It's probably been done before, but just really unique, expensive content that would cost a lot of money. But then also kind of like what I was saying before, I would like to do Hockey Journey and make it a series and do, shoot, with $5 million, we could easily crank out, I think, 10 of those, if not more. So make that a series. And, whether that lives on YouTube or Vimeo or, if we could get on a legitimate platform, that'd be even better. But yeah, I think just continue to do what I'm doing, just on a much, I guess, more, just a bigger scale, because when you're creating content, especially film, the bigger budget you have, the more access you have to do cooler stuff. So I would definitely like to expand upon what I'm already doing, just do much better.
Yeah, you guys have already accomplished a lot with the league, but what would you say are some of the coolest things that you've been able to do through the BHL? Like I've seen you guys played in some big stadiums and stuff like that, outdoor, indoor. So what's some cool memories that you have? Well,
first of all, thank you very much for the kind words. Appreciate it. I think coolest memory would be skating at Busch Stadium, which is, I'm a big Cardinals fan being from St. Louis. So skating there was something I always remember. Also skating up in Minnesota at the Winter Classic this past winter. The NHL had me and a bunch of other social media personalities up there. And so Fritz from Old Time Hockey, who's an absolute beauty of a human, he and I got to hang out and skate around and shoot some content. That was pretty freaking cool. We got to go to the All-Star games in Tampa and Los Angeles. And we had sponsors kind of, fund everything and give us access to stuff. So I think just being invited to these big events and be given access and, getting sponsors and things, that it's pretty awesome. And, we're super lucky to be in this position, but at the same time, I know we put in a lot of hours and a lot of hard work. So it's just nice to feel like we're getting kind of, I guess, rewarded, so to speak, for that. But we've gotten to do a lot of cool stuff, and I've gotten to meet a lot of legends too. And no, I'm not talking about Barber, although I love the guy, but like hockey legends like Brian Trottier, Wayne Gretzky, Brett Hall, who I met a bunch as a kid, but got to meet him again as an adult. So it's just, I don't know, just being invited to these events has been awesome.
If you don't mind me asking, what did you talk to Wayne about? Or was it just a quick little hey?
It wasn't a one-on-one conversation. I wish it was, but it was a group. There are a lot of Blues alumni around. It was in St. Louis, and it was me, Wayne, myself. At one point, Wayne was talking to me and like 5 or 6 other guys. We were kind of in a circle, and he was just telling stories. And he is the coolest. Every story you hear about him is true. He's the coolest guy ever, and he's not even trying to be cool. He's just best storyteller, coolest guy in the room. Just, it was an awesome experience. I don't get starstruck, but with freaking Wayne Gretzky, I was very starstruck. I was just kind of like just sitting back listening, and I didn't really say much, to be honest.
Yeah. So you said you're a Blues fan. What do you think about like current, like present day hockey? Because I mean, they just signed the deal with ESPN, so they're going to be like, the game's going to be more like widely accessible. So like, what do you think about the current state of hockey? Like, do you like where it's going, or you think they could make some adjustments?
I love where it's going. Unfortunately in the US, we're not going to be as big as the NFL or any of that, but I think it's awesome that the technology is helping the game. It's something I think I want to say like 20 years ago, I had a conversation with, some people, and HD cameras and different angles and all the different technology, I think is only helping the sport of hockey. Cause, a lot of people who are knowledgeable of hockey can tell you it's so entertaining to watch, in person. It's the fastest game, that sort of thing. And I feel like it just didn't really translate to TV very well in the 80s, 90s. And then once you get into the 2000s, you get HD TV, and it's like, oh, I can actually see what's going on. And now with the different replays and all the stuff they have going on, I think it's definitely trending in the right direction. Now that, like you just said, now that they're going to be back on ESPN and some major networks, it's only going to get more eyeballs on it. I also think these superstars like Austin Matthews and Connor McDavid, who are just absolute freaks with so much talent, are definitely helping grow the game as well.
Mm.
Not just from the standpoint of, little Johnny being like, oh, I want to be the next Connor McDavid, but, a guy who's a big football fan sees Connor do something. He's like, oh my God, that's unreal. And then, or Trevor Zegras, for example, like when he started doing his like trick shot goals or whatever, some old timers can gripe all they want, but the fact is he's growing the sport single-handedly when he's making those plays. He's getting football fans and basketball fans talking about hockey and watching hockey. So I think all that stuff, all the aforementioned stuff is only helping the game.
Yeah. And I think getting on ESPN is gigantic because then you get on their social media and everything like that. Because in my opinion, all you need to do is just watch hockey, like whether it's a clip or a game. And once you watch it, like you're just hooked on it. I mean, for me, I've grown up in the DMV my whole life. And I've like kind of watched hockey a little bit. But then when the Capitals went on their run in like 2017, 2018, and they won the Stanley Cup, like that just turned the dial for me. So ever since then, I've just been a huge fan of the league. And yeah, once you learn about the players a little more, you kind of, you get more like acquainted to it, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, winning a Stanley Cup definitely helps. St. Louis has had a really good fan base for a long time, but when they won in 2019, I mean, it just blew up.
It's electric, dude.
Yeah, it's awesome. And as a passionate hockey guy, like I love new fans. You can call them bandwagoners, you can call them whatever you want, but if our goal is to grow the game, it's just awesome when we have, new fans coming in, especially crossing over from other sports.
Mm-hmm. And now another question that I have is we kind of just talked about like some of the cool things that you've been able to do through the BHL and through some of your platforms, but what would you say ultimately has been the most rewarding part of all your success so far?
The most, this has only probably happened a handful of times, to be honest with you, I thought that the person telling me was kind of messing with me, but then I realized, oh, they're being sincere. And then it happened again and again a few times. But I've had a handful of, younger kids reach out and just say, hey, basically something like, you got me into hockey, or you got me into playing goalie. I stumbled across your channel. I found it funny or silly or whatever. And then, you're so passionate that I tried goalie and now I've been a goalie for 3-4 years. Like things like that really take me back. And I'm like, wow, I never, even if it's five humans that I help become hockey players, I'm still feel like I'm doing my part to grow the game. So for me, that's incredibly humbling and just, that it doesn't get much cooler than that for me. Because I've always had a goal of growing the game, but, not being a professional athlete or not having any way to do it, it's a little tricky. And then, now that I have an audience, it's, I guess, the most rewarding thing, I guess, would be growing the sport in my own way.
And how important is it to work with, youth athlete or young athletes and, aspiring hockey players, the next generation, and building the sport up? Like, how important is that to you?
It's huge for me. I just growing up, the goalie coach profession didn't exist. I got to work with Mitch Korn and Lindsay Middlebrook. Lindsay was an NHL alum a little bit, but the game was, I was growing up playing in the 90s and early 2000s, and the game was evolving so fast. And back then it was just be athletic, figure out how to stop the puck. No one had consistent training or like a consistent way to play the position. And that's totally changed today. Not to say there's only one way to play the position, but there's really kind of one way to play the position in many aspects. The technique is such a huge part of the game now. So to be able to kind of help these kids out in ways that I didn't have help, it's really gratifying. And then also, working with a kid and you can teach them, whether it's a power push or whatever, you can make them better instantly. And it's, selfishly, it's a little bit of instant gratification. Like, oh, wow, look how much better that kid's getting. But, just to see them, build confidence in themselves and just become better goalies is what it's all about. Because at the end of the day, as much as I would love to see these kids play in the NHL, and some of them will, most of them aren't, right? And we're just trying to help them become good human beings and learn life lessons, good teammates, and things like that they can carry with them, the rest of their lives. But working with kids is so gratifying for the reason that, in 1 hour, you can literally make a kid significantly better if you hone in on the right things.
Are there any goalies in the NHL that you tell them to maybe study
Oh
when they're
yeah.
not training? Who are some go-tos for you?
Go-tos has been Carey Price forever.
Hmm.
He's just so fundamentally sound and smooth, and everything he does impresses me. But there's also a lot of guys who play like him, in my opinion, like Carter Hart plays like him. There's a handful of guys. I also tell a lot of goalies to watch, obviously, Vasilevsky. You could argue
He's a
he's the best.
dog.
He's an absolute beast, and you could argue he's the best goalie in the world, and I would not argue with you. But just the way he plays it's so fun to watch. And then Jordan Binnington too. And sometimes there's like little aspects of a goalie, like I'll be like, notice how Binnington, what he does on a rim with the puck, or notice what his hand positioning when the puck is here, and so us goalie coaches, like I study those NHL goalies, and I got to figure out like, okay, what are they doing that's going to be relatable to an 18-year-old or an 11-year-old, and because obviously you can't have an 11-year-old play like Vasilevsky when they're a fourth of the size.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a little bit of adjustments, but that's a really good question. As a goalie coach, there's tons of NHL goalies that I kind of study and then tell kids to watch, but most of them are so freaking good and so fundamentally sound that for the most part, you could have a kid watch any of them, and they should pick up a thing or two just by watching them.
So for goalies, what do you think separates, like let's say someone who's on the border of making the NHL and then a superstar in the NHL? Like, what are some little details that like a casual fan might not know that really separates them?
There's not much, and what I mean by that is like a professional goalie in the East Coast League is so talented nowadays that I don't think the average fan would be able to tell the difference between them and an NHL goalie for the most part. I really don't, because they're just so, like I said before, technically sound, so athletic, so big and strong, or at least strong and move really well. I guess I would say timing and luck. I mean, I know guys who barely got a sniff in the NHL, and they should have, but they were just, their third or fourth string goalie, and they just never got the opportunity. And then there's guys who, I'm not going to name names, but there's guys who are, starting goalies for their country and World Juniors who are still, battling it in the minors because the organization they're with just keeps signing 40-year-olds, and then there's a kid who's very talented as well, who is, his goalie partners now starting NHL goalie just because, he earned it. He's unreal. Not to say he didn't deserve it, but it was a lot of luck and timing. Whereas, one guy got hurt, one guy retired, and then one guy this, and boom, all of a sudden he got his opportunity. So I don't think there's much of a difference between American League goalies and NHL goalies outside of experience, exposure, and just timing and luck. Mm-hmm. A lot of that comes into play. I'm learning as I follow the careers of a lot of these young goalies.
What would you say is the most memorable hockey game you've ever played in?
Shoot, that's a good question. I was really lucky. Growing up, I played on some really good teams, so we won a ton of tournaments. And I was on. I guess I would say I was a net, and I need to do some research to figure out who the other goalie was, because it's possible I played against Curtis McElhaney. It's very possible it could have been the other guy in his team, but anyway, he and I are the same age, and I played against the top team in Canada, and we beat them in overtime, which was awesome. And then Mike McKenna was my goalie partner that year, who was an absolute stud. And so he basically, our team won this tournament called KIVT, Kamloops International Bantam Ice Hockey Tournament. Is what the acronym stands for. We had to beat the top like 2 or 3 U.S. teams, and we were ranked 4th, which was very generous. I don't know if we were top 10, but somehow they had us 4th. And then we had to beat all the top teams in Canada to win that tournament, which at the time, a team from St. Louis, that was unheard of. Mm-hmm. And we pulled it off, and Mike was unreal, and a lot of our, top players were unbelievable. And just to, no one had us winning a single game, let alone winning that tournament. So there definitely, it's hard to pick a single game, but there are definitely a lot of those underdog games where we had no business winning, and we went in and just kind of stole one. And as a goalie, those are without a doubt the most memorable.
Who would you say is like the hardest shooter you've ever faced?
Vladimir Tarasenko, no question. I practiced with the Blues for a week, not actually, I should say that again. It was an unofficial practice. So like there weren't coaches out there. But it was all Blues players. And it was like Maroon was out there back when he was with St. Louis. Ryan O'Reilly was out there. And it was funny because the first drill we did was just like warm-up shooting where they were like kind of skating a route and they were taking a shot from like way back. So like you should save it. Like there's no traffic. It's a long distance shot. And none of them were even trying to score. They were just kind of letting you get a feel for the puck. And then we started doing drills where like they're trying to score. And Vladdy he's such an awesome guy. His oldest son's a goaltender. So I coach him. And so I've gotten to know him. And he skates up to me. He goes, okay, now I score on you. And I was like, okay, bring on. And sure enough, it was an absolute laser. Like I almost read it right. Like I knew where he's going, but it came in so fast. I didn't even come close to saving it. It was right in the corner and he kind of smiled and winked at me. And yeah, he did that to me a few times out there. But for me, it was so cool to just see how freaking hard those guys can shoot. And I adjusted to the speed a little bit. Like obviously I got scored on a lot for obvious reasons, but when you first see the shot, you're like, oh my God, I've never seen a shot that hard in my life. And so it's kind of like overwhelming. And then eventually you kind of adjust where you can at least track it a little bit and stop, one every once in a while. But yeah, I would say Vladdy's shot was noticeably ridiculous. And his release was just so hard to keep up with.
Do you have any like nasty saves that stand out from the rest that you made? Like any like just gloves that would have been top Genos?
Definitely not at those practices. But in my beer league, yeah, I've had some good ones where I was like, man, I wish that was on film. But for every one of those, there's usually a goal that goes in that you're like, oh, thank goodness that's not on film. So I don't know. I guess my favorite save to make would be when a guy's like backdoor or whatever thinks they have a wide open net and you just come across with a real strong push and get a piece of it or catch it. I guess glove saves are always kind of the most fun because if they're dramatic ones and the puck's in your glove, the play's over. So then all the focus is on you and you're like, yep, I got it. It's right here. So yeah, I think those desperation glove saves would have to be my favorite.
And during your coaching career and playing career, what are some of like the best chirps you've ever heard on the ice?
I think the best one, that's funny. Okay. So I made a really good glove save a few years ago and this kid or guy, I guess he's around my age, skates up and he goes, you putting that in your YouTube video? I just kind of laughed. I was like, nope, not today. So I get a lot of that, which to be expected, no hard feelings. It's all in fun and it's just kind of part of the game.
Now, I always ask my guests this at the end of the show, but what is one piece of advice that you would give to everyone watching or listening?
Let's see. As far as just any advice, life advice, hockey advice?
Yeah, like life advice, I guess.
I think you just got to stick with what you're passionate about and don't let any naysayers kind of change your mind. And what I mean by that is, if you want to pursue a sport or whatever profession you want to pursue, no one is going to keep you from doing it, but there's always going to be people who maybe talk down or try to talk you out of it, or maybe they're jealous, whatever the case may be. Just stick with it. Always stick with it. Work hard, be the first one there, the last one to leave, whether it's hockey or school or whatever it is, you can accomplish it. It's just anything worth accomplishing is never going to be easy. And you're always going to have those ups and downs. And so when that happens, just keep going, just keep on, keep it on, whatever it is you're trying to pursue.
Were there any times throughout building your social media platforms and your YouTube channel, times where you kind of doubted if you'd be able to be successful with it?
Oh yeah, a million times. I mean, there's definitely times where things get a little frustrating and, there's definitely times where I'm like, okay, I don't need to do this anymore. I can do this or that, I don't need to do this. And, but kind of going back to like what I was saying before about, that one random kid who's like, oh, I got into hockey because of your YouTube channel, or, there's little things like that totally make it worth it. So when I do get a little frustrated or do get like, I don't need to do this anymore, I'm gonna walk away. Something always happens where I'm like, okay, like a little reassurance is, okay, this is why I do this. Yes, ad revenue is very helpful. Sponsorship dollars is very helpful. Everyone's motivated by money, but for the longest time, I didn't make any money doing this. So I'd be lying if I said I just do it for the money. It's definitely a passion project for us. It's just nice that, making some dollars is definitely making it worth our while, I guess.
And dude, Keith, I really appreciate your time, man. It was an honor having you on the show, getting to interview you and, talk a little bit about hockey. Cause I never actually interviewed anyone from like, I guess the sport of hockey. So what better person to have than you, KVG?
Perfect, man. Then no one listening to have a clue who I am. That's all good. Hopefully I get some new followers out of it. But hey, honestly, Michael, you're a really good interviewer. I've done a ton of these podcasts and you're very prepared. You're really good at this. And like I said, when we first started, thanks very much for reaching out and thanks for having me.
World's best beer league goalie, 5-time BHL champion, content creator with over 50K on YouTube. And like I said, man, it was an absolute honor to have you on.
Yeah, thanks again, man. I forgot to correct you on one thing. We got 8 championships now. I need to update that. Yeah, we've won 3 in the last few years. So anyways,
got a dynasty going, dude.
We do. We got everyone hates us. We got targets on our back, but
so do you do you recruit players for the league, or is it kind of
we got
join
for our team? Yeah, we totally recruit guys. Like I have a guy on my team who played at Yale who's one of the best defensemen I've ever seen. So it's like he makes me look good because he's so good at just I don't know. It's nice. We got a few guys on our team that played professionally, so we got a pretty good squad.
Got to make it 10, dude. Get 10 rings on each finger.
Yeah,
ring on each.
T-shirts, rings, whatever. It's all the same.
That's awesome.
But, anyways, thanks again, man. I really appreciate it.
Of course, man. Anytime. And if you're watching on YouTube, please like, comment, subscribe. If you're listening on any audio platforms, please rate 5 stars. But I'm your host of this show, Michael Maher, and I'll see everyone next week.